Next on Worcester News tonight, rain and ice overnight will make for a slick commute tomorrow morning. How Worcester DPW is preparing for it. Plus, city officials are looking for ways to clean up trash from its neighborhoods. We get a first-hand look at where things go when they're recycled in Worcester. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Botari. Officials in Worcester say while it's a good thing to see the city grow, cleanliness has become an issue throughout its neighborhoods. In response, the city manager's office has proposed the Clean City program. The pilot program is looking into simpler ways of recycling, like the use of clear plastic bags over the standard plastic bin. In hopes of gathering more information on how residents recycle, the Standing Committee on Public Works ventured out of the city to the recycling plant, which handles the city's trash. Our Cam Jandro was there today. He joins us now live with more. Cam?
Yeah, Anna, the city's looking for a more effective way to clean up trash and trying to keep litter out of the streets inside of their neighborhoods. So in order to find out how the whole process of recycling works, a bunch of city councilors here in the city of Worcester decided to go to Casella in Auburn and see how everything goes.
It's a dirty job, but Worcester city councilors wanted to see it in person. The city's Public Works Committee toured Casella Recycling in Auburn to gather ideas for the comprehensive Clean City program.
It's important for us to see at this end of the cycle what's going on and to get some information and some feedback from the folks at Casella and from the DPW staff.
Feedback like if city residents are properly getting rid of their waste. Casella wants residents to avoid recycling things like scrap metal, plastic bags, or clothes, so they can recycle what comes into their facility.
Ultimately, that's how recycling works, right? Recycling has to go the complete cycle. Just because it goes out to the curb or just because Jerry's trucks pick it up doesn't mean that it's recycling.
The city has proposed clear drawstring bags as part of its new recycling program. The hope is it also promotes residents to only recycle appropriate materials. The idea has received mixed reviews from residents as well as city councilors.
I'm not looking to carry 2 recycle bins inside of a bag to the curb.
Public Works Committee Chair George Russell is also on the fence about the bags. He says education plays a role in cleaning up Worcester.
Neighbors need to get the message that they're not limited to one small recycling bin. And DPW will give them a bumper sticker that says recycling. They can put it on any plastic bin that they want.
Now, Councilor Russell says by early March, they should know what revisions they're going to make to the Clean City program. If you want to have a look at what the Clean City program looks like, it's a very extensive document. You can find it on the city's website. Anna?
Thanks for that, Cam. Ahead of Thursday's school committee meeting, Mayor Joseph Petty announcing they will not be going forward with the sexual education portion of the Michigan model for comprehensive health. He says the decision comes after listening to numerous issues raised by students, parents, and community members. The school committee has decided to hold the sexual health curriculum until the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's new health standards are released this fall. Petty says in May, the Worcester Public Schools will add a system-wide staff training on things like LGBTQ inclusivity, gender identity, sexual orientation, and ensuring tolerance and acceptance are part of the school's culture. A winter weather advisory is in effect tonight. A storm expected to bring freezing rain to the area had Worcester DPW crews preparing early. Commissioner Paul Moosey says they brought in their inspectors and city-owned sanders during the day. He says they did something different for this storm by bringing in their hired sanders at 7 p.m. to ensure there are crews on the roads when the weather hits. Moosey says with ice, they need to react immediately.
Slippery immediately, so there has to be enough equipment available right when it starts.
Moosey says while there isn't a parking ban in effect, they're asking everyone to be careful and take it easy. A Worcester dry cleaner is facing a large fine for multiple violations of environmental regulations. The Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection assessed more than $80,000 in penalties against the owner and operators of White and Bright Cleaners on Main Street. According to Mass DEP, several inspections of the dry cleaning business continued to identify environmental regulations violations, including air quality, hazardous waste cleanup, and failing to address the violations in a timely manner. Aside from the penalties, the owners have been ordered to address levels of dry cleaning fluid inside the building and to comply with all regulations. A care center in Worcester is offering loan repayment services to new and current staff. The Worcester Business Journal reports Lutheran Rehabilitation and Skilled Care Center is teaming up with a Boston loan repayment company to offer up to $10,200 towards an employee's loan payment. She and Health Group, Lutheran's parent company, says the program is important to stay competitive in recruitment and retention efforts in an industry with high demand for workers. All full-time licensed staff nurses are eligible. Treehouse Brewery is expanding its operations. The popular Charlton beer maker announced this week on its blog they've purchased a 100-acre working farm with more than 60 acres of agriculturally prime soil. Owners say they'll also be pressing fresh cider to be set aside for fermentation, and it should be ready this fall. They say the Treehouse Orchard and Farm Fermentory will be the third vertex to complete the Treehouse Triangle, joining their Charlton location and original location in Munson, which now they use to create barrel-aged creations. President Donald Trump giving his second State of the Union address last night. The speech was delayed for weeks due to the partial government shutdown. And as our Rosalind Flaherty reports, the president called for Democrats and Republicans to work together.
The President of the United States!
In his second State of the Union address, President Donald Trump called for unity while covering a variety of topics, including building a border wall.
We must choose between greatness or gridlock, results or resistance, vision or vengeance.
The 82-minute speech received mixed reviews. WTAG talk show host Jim Polito says it depends what side you're on.
If you look at some of the initial polling right after, he did well. He did very, very well. A lot better than probably the reaction that you saw from a lot of the Democrats.
Democratic Congressman Jim McGovern was in the chamber Tuesday. He's skeptical of the speech, saying actions speak louder than words.
The president talked about unity, but for the last 2 years, he's been the most divisive and polarizing figure in our political system.
President Trump did not address the longest government shutdown in U.S. history or the potential for another shutdown on February 15th if lawmakers can't come to an agreement about funding for the border wall. McGovern says he doesn't want to waste money. He wants to invest it in other ways to protect the border.
It almost seemed like the president was itching for another shutdown. There are better ways to patrol our border in this day and age. There's new technologies, there's drones, there's sensors. People at the border said they need more personnel.
Polito says he thinks it was wise for President Trump not to address the shutdown and says the president won't give up on the wall because he needs it for a second term.
I think a lot of people expected him to say, I'm going to use my emergency powers and I'm going to build that wall. No, what he did instead was appeal to the American people, made the case. Here's the human trafficking, here's the drugs, here's the amount of murder that's going on. It makes sense in certain points to have a wall. He needs to keep his base, and if he doesn't give them part of that, then the base is going to leave him. And you have to remember that he won the election partly on that issue.
Rosalind Flaherty, Worcester News Tonight.
The man charged with killing Vanessa Marcotte is appointed 2 new lawyers. Angelo Colon Ortiz's previous attorneys withdrew from the case last month, citing irreconcilable differences and a breakdown of the attorney-client relationship. Colon Ortiz is charged in the 2016 murder of the 27-year-old Princeton woman. His case was continued to April 1st. College of the Holy Cross students ending a 2-day sit-in after a second meeting with the college's president. Students were demanding the school cut ties with a professor accused of sexual harassment and be more transparent when it comes to all cases of sexual misconduct. Students met with administrators to see if they would meet a list of demands. In a statement, the school says in part, Father Burrows and members of his executive team met with students again today, and they had a positive and productive meeting. We're continuing to work together and feel good about where we are in this important conversation. For the past several years, the city as a whole has been working to reduce youth crime. Several organizations and partnerships are working to make sure it happens, but city leaders say they can always do better. Our Brittany Schaefer has more.
It's been pretty extraordinary.
Youth crime is down in the city. The Worcester Youth Violence Protection Initiative says efforts started in 2015 are working.
I collect the data from the schools, the police, the district attorney's office on a monthly basis, and through the data we see that these efforts are actually working.
Research partner Lori Ross says in the past 3 years, youth arrests are down 13%, and as of last year, suspension rates are also declining. But she says there is still more work to do.
The area that's been more challenging is the racial equity issue. And so the disparity in who's arrested is kind of continues, and that Latino and African American youth are more likely to be arrested or suspended.
The city points to programs like Recreation Worcester and middle school sports as successes. Counselor Christian King pushed for the return of middle school sports. He says it keeps children busy and focused on healthy goals.
We've had hundreds and hundreds of kids show up for tryouts. There's footage of filled gyms with kids from all across the city engaging with one another. That's how you combat youth violence. That's how you keep kids engaged. That's how you improve self-esteem.
The Worcester Police Department also has youth programs like the Police Athletic League and the Arts and Music Police Partnership. Lieutenant Sean Murtha says the decrease in youth violence results in a decline in crime overall.
The last several years, 3 or 4 years in a row, we've seen just about every category drop off sharply. It's incredibly important. I think once somebody goes down the road of getting involved in criminal activity, it can be tough to come back. So obviously the best thing to do is not go down that road to begin with.
And King says a mentor program with teens involved with crime is something the city will be adding soon to combat youth violence. At the Worcester Police Department, Brittany Schaefer, Worcester News Tonight.